Childhood Ireland's podcast, which features interviews and discussions on all issues relating to high quality in the early years and school-age care sector. In our episodes, we have a range of speakers who are leaders in the areas that matter to Early Childhood Ireland members. This podcast series is proudly supported by Aricus Insurance, which offers a comprehensive range of cover at discounted premiums for both business and personal insurance products. So visit www.aricus.ie for more information. I'm Maura Corbett and I work with Early Childhood Ireland. Early Childhood Ireland is delighted to have received funding from the Toy Show Appeal in late 2024. This time, as many members are aware, we decided to develop a project and a resource with a focus on interactions. As you all know, the importance of interactions was restated and indeed strengthened in the 2024 update of ASHTR. So in a previous episode of the podcast, you might remember we discussed the development of the TIME resource and the CPD programme that underpinned it. The TIME programme is thriving through interactions and meaningful engagements. So today I'm delighted to be joined by two of the educators who took part in the CPD programme and who helped to shape the member resource that's now available on the Early Childhood Ireland Learning Hub. Claire Walsh and Marsela Vangjeli, you're really welcome to the podcast. Claire and Marsela work together at the Children's Village in Balbriggan, County Dublin. Delighted to have you both to chat about your project today. So, Claire, you're really welcome. Can I ask you first to tell us a little bit about the setting you work in and your experience and so on?
Well, I actually work at the Children's Village in Balbriggan, County Dublin. I'm a team lead for a preschool full-time class. I have 10 kids in my class, ranging from 3 years to 4 years. Half of them heading off to school this year now. So then we have another 8 or 9 rooms in the setting. Again, we've about 6 other rooms that are preschool, ECCE, and a wobbler and toddler room. So it's a fairly big setup.
Okay. And you operate some of the setting at least throughout the year, you were saying before we hit record there.
Yeah. Yep. Well, so I'm there all year round, no breaks, no summer off. So I'm here all year round.
Okay. So no long break ahead. Marsela, would you like to tell us a little bit about, Claire has already explained the type of setting that the Children's Village is, but Marsela, maybe you tell us a little bit about yourself and the range of roles that you've had.
Absolutely. So Children's Village, I'd say, in my opinion, it's such a very big service. I was used to work with a quiet one in the local area, like in a very quiet area here in Scaries, and we only had, let's say, one classroom of Montessori. But once I started working there, to me it was such a very big challenge because there are 9 classrooms there. We have a wobbler room, like the baby's room, when they start from 1 year and up. And then we have the toddler room and another 7 Montessori classrooms, and then they operate like seasonal, full-time, part-time.
And Marsela, what attracted you to this particular the TIME project? What made you fill in the expression of interest when we put the call out there a couple of months ago?
To be honest, my weakness or my strength is being straightforward and being honest. So first, my manager just approached me and she said, this is a very big CPD. It's not one of those CPDs like that you go have 2 hours training and this is done. And she loves that I love challenges, and she said, I trust that you're going to be the first one down. And I'm sure, she said, that you're going to be able to go to the end. And I said, oh yeah, I'm open for that. Let's see how it goes. But I knew very little, to be honest, for not saying nothing at all when I first started that. And then she was giving me few instructions. She said it's going to be for the 5 months. You're going to have, a Zoom call monthly. all the information's going to be there. And doctors Christine Egan and then Kathleen, she said, they are going to visit you at some stage. And to be honest, it looked very, very like, oh, I want to do that. So exciting. But we didn't know much that time when she first suggested that. It was like a slowly process. And every month we were learning like new things. And at some point I'm going to be honest, I was like, wow, this is bigger than I thought. You know what I mean? I was like, it does require lots of commitment.
Mm.
And then I said, you know what? Let's say I'm doing some part of the college, because to me it was like a learning experience that I have to admit, like it really helped me like growing. You know what I mean? So she just came, she introduced to me, and I said, okay, I got this. I want to do that.
And you were happy you did.
To be honest, I am, especially when I had my presentation. Oh, wow. I was like, listen, I sure can do this. And I got it, I said. And I really enjoyed the presentation. And, like, I want to do another one, not going to lie.
So, Claire, Marsela explained what attracted her to this piece of work. What made you think that you'd like to be involved in this CPD program when you heard about it?
No, I hadn't heard about it until one of my managers came to me and she thought it was something that I would be interested in. So I took time out and had a look at it and have never done a research project before, and definitely thought that this was something that could make an impact with the kids and myself in my classroom setting. So I thought, no, definitely this is something that I would like to get involved with, and definitely there were huge benefits from it.
Okay, so we'll talk about some of those in a second. You just said you hadn't been involved in any research project before, so the idea of practitioner inquiry was quite new to you. What was your experience like using practitioner inquiry then?
And it was absolutely fantastic. Now, the two ladies involved just were really good at kind of laying things out. It was all very, not going to say easy, but it was very plain and very straightforward. And just having like discussions with them all the time, and it just really made a huge difference. And also being able to engage with other settings was hugely beneficial for ourselves.
So you found it like you say, not an easy process necessarily, but very, very worthwhile, um, which is great. Which is great to hear. Marcella, was it your first experience of practitioner inquiry, or
First.
had you used that kind of approach before?
No, it was the first ever introduced in my 10 years of my career. And as I said earlier, we did know only a little about all of this.
Can you tell us what the focus that you took for your inquiry was, and what that process was like, how you decided what to look into, and how you did it?
Well, through talks with Marsela and myself, we decided that we were going to focus on storytelling benefits for children, both socially and emotionally within the age groups of 3 to 6. It basically was just kind of to break it down, to take this a real slow approach. We knew ourselves that there was huge benefits with storytelling at a young age, but we just wanted to take this time, take our 4 weeks, do it every day, and just to see how, in such a small space of time, what benefits was going to have. And definitely it was huge. It was a much better than what we had ever anticipated. And the ourselves and even our parents coming back and just saying it had made such a huge difference, and the benefits were incredible. They were really good.
And what did you do what was the project that you did related to storytelling? Can you take us through
Yeah.
what that process was?
Yeah. So every morning at circle time, we incorporated it into circle time. So every morning I got the kids and we picked a different book every day. We sat down and we took things really at a slow pace with them. You know yourself in the kind of settings, everything is fast paced activities, but just to actually slow everything down for the kids and letting them interject, just getting, rather than reading the story, you're kind of, beforehand you would say, like, be quiet, teacher's going to be, where this time it was letting them ask questions, letting them interject, letting hear what they wanted to say, letting them take it on a different course, not necessarily how the book was. So it was really letting them show us the direction that they wanted to go. And again, it was comical sometimes how it ended up, but really beneficial.
Isn't slowing it down can really, just that simple act of slowing it down can really be transformational, can't it?
Absolutely, and just giving them that little bit of kind of pride in what they were doing and kind of creativity and letting them take it in a different road. It's very, very special.
We have so many kids in our setting that find very hard like to express their feelings, because not always English is the first language, as it's not mine, and I said, you know what, storytelling, let's see how the storytelling might help kids who come from cultures, or from places where, from houses when English is not their first language. I said, some kids, like, because I was doing the aim, and some kids weren't able, like, kids coming, like, they were so challenging, and one of the guys were using his hands during all time, but by the end of this project he was like, teacher, I'm so frustrated, but I'm not going to use my hands, because remember the book about the boundaries and this and that. So we could see a great impact that this research had, not only on the kids, I'd say, but even in
Mm,
other staff members that we share other, our ideas or
mm.
our approach. So it was like a big thing, and we could see the positive impacts that it had on ourselves, on the children, and other practitioners.
It's so interesting that you mentioned, and I suppose it comes from your experience of English not being your first language,
Absolutely.
that the way you were able to bring your experience, and that you mentioned specifically the children for whom English isn't their first
Yeah,
language, and how it supported children who found communication
absolutely.
difficult. Um, and I suppose slowing down, Claire has mentioned slowing down,
We did
and
follow slowing down approach,
mm,
and this was the focus on all of it, because not gonna lie, in childcare you don't always have the time, because when you have like 18 or 20 kids in the classroom, you
mm,
can't really slow down and follow that approach. But we said, you know what, in this, let's say, 20 minutes, we're gonna try to slow down
mm,
and also let the kids follow. Sometimes I didn't even have to read in my classroom, because me and Claire work in two different classrooms. So I said, there were times after a couple, let's say after 2 weeks, that I said, I'm not going to read the story now, the story I used to read 2 weeks ago. I'm just going to show them the picture, the illustration, and I'm going to ask them to express with their little words, what do you see in this picture? Is the little boy sad of somebody grabbing off his toy? We chose books that we thought the kids would benefit, not
mm,
only expressing themselves, but learning from them,
mm,
putting boundaries, like talking about private bubbles. Make sure you don't pop somebody else's bubble, because what's going to happen? And they are like, they're gonna get sad. So what
mm,
should we do to not make our friends sad? We have to respect our bubbles. show me the bubbles. And they were like, open your arms and show me the bubble around us, Unbelievable. And then whenever, like the classroom was getting hectic during the day, I was like, oh, personal space, show me your bubble. And unbelievable. The way they stopped opening their arms, making sure they were not going to touch each other. And they were like, don't pop our bubble. We're going to get upset. Remember during the storytelling? It was unbelievable. And there were days I felt so proud of myself that I couldn't even express, like I couldn't really express how proud I was, because they slowly were learning from all of this experience.
Excellent, excellent. And, if there were other members listening to this podcast, Claire, who were thinking of taking part in, even not necessarily in a research project with Early Childhood Ireland, who are thinking of maybe, is there something for me in practitioner inquiry? What would you say to them? How would you encourage them to start, even as I say, if it's not a formal kind of project?
I think even in our own setting, because we had questionnaires, we were doing it with our other teachers, and they were kind of taking that on board as well. I think everybody kind of gets mixed up, and you're carried away with your routine. Everything's a schedule. To just take that time out and just even say, right, even if it is 10, 15, 20 minutes of the day, it has a huge effect on the classroom. Just slowing things down, I would absolutely think that for anybody that it'd be a huge benefit.
And in terms of you said that the parents had noticed and commented on impacts as well. So is there anything you'd add about kind of involving parents in a process like that?
Definitely, because again, you have the kids going back because their routine has slightly changed. They're excited. They want to know what the next day is going to bring, what the next book is going to be. They're now being more creative in their own mind. And possibly if we have parents that maybe didn't have the time, or it just wasn't in their schedule to read, or maybe, as time kind of takes you by, you kind of maybe forget to kind of adapt and put these small things in. It helps them thinking, well, these kids are actually benefited from this. Maybe if I take time, maybe it's 10 minutes at night, and put it into their own routine. Look how much these kids are benefit from this. It makes a huge difference.
So if there was somebody in the future thinking of embarking on a research project or practitioner inquiry, and they said to you, well, Marsela, should I do this or not?
Oh, 100%. 100%. As I said, my weakness is being very honest. Like, you should go for it. You should go for it, because it's like, I'd say sometimes it's like life changing when it comes to the kids, because you're going to see all the positive results, all the positive incomes by the end. And then, there is nothing better than seeing the difference in their eyes, seeing them using like words, in our case, like, because we use our storytelling. But there are so many areas in childcare, Maura, that you can work on. And there are so many in our setting that if I be chosen to do that again, I'm gonna try to find different areas, like the muddy kitchen, let's say. How can improve that? How can we, you know what I mean? So I would really highly recommend it to every single practitioner out there, because it's very beneficial. You can learn a lot. And, like Christine and Kathleen, they were amazing, encouraging us during all time, being there whenever we needed us, like we needed them. And it was an excellent experience. So I would highly recommend it to all of them.
And it sounds very much like you're going to carry the learning forward into
Absolutely.
the future. It hasn't ended
Absolutely.
here.
I'm too eager to learn, because in childcare, I'd say, like in medicine, it is like a learning process during all the time. There is always a place to get better, to learn new stuff, to learn, like, to do new CPD. So 100%, if I still get an invitation, or my manager, Actually, I am going to ask it myself next time and say, you know what?
Perfect.
I'm here
That's
again. So yeah, definitely, I
that's
enjoyed it to the fullest.
and I suppose one final question, Claire. You've mentioned routine and so on. Do I get the sense that your thoughts on routine and involving children more in how their day goes have your thoughts changed on how you manage your day and the involvement of the children in the way their day goes?
I think definitely slowing things down does make a huge difference. And I know everybody has a schedule you have to go by. You can't completely just not go by the schedule, but
Mm,
it kind of opens up other corridors, like thinking maybe do creative drawing, maybe just their imaginations are so vast at that age, and they're so quirky, and the things that they
mm,
come out with, and you can meet them at a different level. You can find out so much more about them. They connect more with the teacher, and it's good, so good for their imagination. But definitely that slowing down, taking the time out, definitely is something that I will adapt in my classroom and
mm.
from now going forward.
I always feel a routine should be kind of the order in which things are done, not specifically the time at which they're done. And that way, I think you can really slow down, that they know what's coming next without it having to be at
Yeah.
at a set time. So, yeah, I'm, regular listeners to the podcast will be used to hearing about that idea of slow pedagogy, because it's just so important. So,
Yes,
Claire,
definitely good for their development.
totally, totally. Um, so thank you both for coming on the podcast today to share your experience. It really sounds like a lovely project. So thank you both.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
and thank you for listening to this episode of Early Childhood Ireland podcast, which is proudly supported by Aricus Insurance. If you enjoyed it, please